Hey folks, welcome to a very special edition of Face to Face Gaming. This is our Thanksgiving special, and by that I mean we have one sick person and one person who lives very far away, because nobody else can make it. Yay! So, I'm Alex, and joining me, as we always appreciate all the way from Victoria, is Maya Kramer.
Maya.
And today is going to be a crapshoot, because I don't know, we're both drinking, I'm sick, she's stuff, and yeah.
Basically, it's Canadian Thanksgiving for anybody that's watching who isn't Canadian.
Yes, we're recording this on... Ooh, you were kind of loud.
Oh, sorry. Am I super loud?
A little loud.
I don't know how to fix that. That's all on your end.
Fair enough. I'll just turn my volume down and let Thompson worry about it in post.
Oh, Thompson. He'll fix it.
Yeah.
I'll make sure not to know. There's a little bit of echo in here, too, so let me know if I sound too tinny.
You sound a little tinny, but you always sound a little tinny.
Oh, I sound a little tinny. That's my speakers, not.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so it's Canadian Thanksgiving.
Indeed it is, and as you can see, we are taking full advantage of it.
I am drinking wine on a Monday.
Yep.
At 1:45 p.m.
Now, I have the excuse of it being closer to 5, I suppose.
But, I mean, it really comes down to the fact that Alex and I both aren't at dinners with our families.
We really aren't.
And so we were able to do this, whereas Thompson is sick with a throat disease that I had probably last week or the week before, which turned me into the most pathetic, like, crybaby, disgusting pile of gross. So I wish him the best and hope he has his quick recovery.
I'm happy to let him be sick for a little while. There's nothing wrong. It makes him a better person. It also makes him quieter.
Ooh.
Yeah. All right. So enough about our assorted illnesses. Do you want to start with what we've been playing?
Yeah,
sure. I think it's heavily Nintendo based.
Oh, good. Then we can go straight talk about Nintendo for 45 minutes.
Yeah. I don't know. As I believe I put it on Twitter, I'm slowly regressing through my childhood. I managed to go from point-and-click adventure games, namely Kentucky Route Zero and The Wolf Among Us, both of which are excellent. For very different reasons. And then moved into Zelda, and now I'm back to Pokemon, because I'm 10 again.
That's good. It's a good place to be.
I was happier then, certainly. No, it's good. The Wolf Among Us, of course, Telltale's new series, 5-episode series, after The Walking Dead. It's managed to solve a lot of the problems I had with The Walking Dead, namely a fairly terrible interface and stress. But at the same time, it's managed to weave a very the Fables comic series is not one I was familiar with prior to this, but it's good. I'm a sucker for modern day fantasy, and this pushes a lot of the right buttons. Have you played Kentucky Route Zero yet? I know you mentioned it on Twitter.
Well, I've watched a little bit of play and short answer, no, I haven't played it myself. I've been meaning to, and I'm in love. Some games you just see and you're gonna love them, and like you see 10 minutes of play and you're like, oh no, this is beautiful and I need to have it. And Kentucky Route Zero, my friend Aaron Lindy roped me in with it just by, like, we were having a normal conversation and he pulled it up on his screen while we were just talking and left it there. And I kind of was trying to say something and then couldn't talk anymore because I was just staring at the screen. And he knows how to get me with that stuff. And yeah, it's stunning. And then he told me about the storyline and how unique it is in that instead of, in conversation where normally the player character would be creating a future, you're telling your past through every interaction you have. And that's storytelling. I mean, I'm a sucker for storytelling. And that's just awesome. I just love the idea of that. So yeah.
It is incredibly well. The story is incredibly surreal, honestly, but I had a lot of fun. It was incredibly well written. I've only done Act 1. I haven't done Act 2 yet, but I'm looking forward to getting back to that.
Yeah.
And I don't know, Zelda, because why the hell not?
Well, I mean, Wind Waker. I said before I don't own a Wii U. I only ever play at friends' houses, and Wind Waker is one of those ones where I forgot how long the intro is.
Well, it's a Zelda game.
Well, and even so, everyone thinks, well, not everyone, but most of my friends think back to Wind Waker, and we all remember sailing around and having this, like, amazing open world to just explore well, not
Yeah.
open, relatively open world, and then we started playing it and remembered that, oh right, there's like 20 hours of pseudo boring, not boring, it's still beautiful and still really fun, but if you know what's coming, it's tedious.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
every time I've been at the house with you, people like, have been saying like, can you just get through the boring part? Hey, can you go play Wind Waker for us so you can get through the part so that we have it here when you leave to just sail around and have fun in? And I'm finally at that phase, which is great. But I'm not there, so they're playing it and sailing around, and I'm not. So I did all the hard work. But it's still fun.
Everything up and past like the forest dungeon, I'm guessing, the Deku tree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm probably in the end game. I've got 2 shards left and a lot. I've fully explored the map and all that other jazz. So this is what happens when you get drunk in marathon like 11-hour play sessions.
Well, and then you're like, have I just been like digging for treasure in the ocean for 4 hours? Did that just happen? And you're just like sailing around until you hear the and then stopping and like, it's so stupid, but it's so much fun.
Backing up slightly because you went too far.
That's a little too far, and then not knowing which direction it was in, and it's just silly. Yeah.
It's done. It's surprisingly free of hand holding, is something I noticed. They don't really bother to give anything but more of a general, it's over that way. Yeah. And I don't know if that's true for a lot of the more modern Zeldas, considering I haven't played any of them since. I don't know.
The Wii ones, like Twilight Princess and then Skyward Sword, have a lot more, in my opinion, have more tutorial in them. Like, they have a lot more hand-holding, as it were, and a lot more, and I guess they tried to do that to make it, I don't know whether they did it for kids or for parents. Like, both of those games came out in this weird generational gap, in my opinion, that I find fascinating, where kids are playing games, and parents want, like, a lot of parents would like their kids to be able to play games, but don't play games. Like, there's this coming now of parents who played games growing up that are now having children, but we're in this weird transition period between, like, people who didn't and people who did, and so I think they maybe were trying to cater to that group of like parents who want to be able to play with their kids and need the tutorials, because I refuse to believe it's for the kids. Like, kids don't need hand-holding. I don't think they do. I think that they figure it out on their own.
Arguably more so than anybody else I've ever seen play a game, especially when it comes to something as mechanically, simple is probably not the right word, but it's not. Yes, Zelda is an incredibly intuitive game, I found.
And so I think that, so anyway, people who are frustrated with tutorials, I know a lot of my friends are, they get really angry when the game tries to teach you it. And Zelda still does a lot of that. Like, I've noticed Wind Waker, I've forgotten about how in Wind Waker, if you get if you enter a dungeon and you need to do X to make it across a platform, let's say, you need to, like, and you die once, when you will like glow, and then she'll tell you what to do, right? Like, they'll tell you what to do. And you're like, no, let me figure it out. I really wanted this puzzle, and I knew what I was doing, and how dare you, like, give it away after
the
one
reflexive
try.
A button. Yeah, press.
3 times. Like,
Follow the rule of 3. All right. I don't know. I've been playing some. I just picked up Pokemon Y. I'm all of 45 minutes into it. I don't know. It's a Pokemon game.
I have a real question.
Sure.
How did you decide?
Short answer or long answer?
No, the long answer, the real answer. Truly, how did you decide between X and Y?
Because I knew you were probably going to get X.
Ah, damn it. That's a cop-out.
Possibly, yeah. Honestly, it was a choice between deer and firebird thingy. And
that was mine. That's how I decided.
Yeah, that's fair. I spent all of 5 minutes on Google searching for the differences, realized there basically wasn't any, and then, I don't know, I like Y more than X.
Fair enough.
I got nothing. No, it's arguably a completely baseless decision. So
yeah, it came down to deer and firebird for me too, and I thought the deer was rad looking.
I agree. Very. Oh shit! I was about to say Miyazaki, but yeah, exactly.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's just one of those things that I'll be getting it. Don't get me wrong, I'll be getting it. I just have a backlog right now of games that I'm trying to get through on my 3DS especially, and haven't yet. Like, I bought the 3DS. I mean, I'm 2 iterations past now. I have 3, right? So, like, I bought the first 3DS for Luigi's Mansion 2. And then it can come out for 2 years or whatever it was, a year and a half. And I have it in my room, and I haven't touched it yet because I have the other things came out, like Animal Crossing came out, and eventually I bought Donkey Kong 3D on the 3DS because I had purchased it on the Wii and then never got to play it. So I'm playing it on the 3DS, and like just too much backlog, and I can't afford to just buy Pokemon. And I bought Professor Layton on launch week and have not. I'm like 40 minutes into it. That's a year ago, like a whole year ago.
We could do a whole episode on things we should probably get back to playing. Things we literally own, have paid money for, and haven't played.
That's just it. It's things that I purchased, with the intention of playing right away and spent money on, and then never did. And I think the other killer of my horrible gaming life and AAA life has been indie games. They've been too good, and I can't get around to playing anything else.
Honestly, it's something the glut of indie games I've started playing this year has probably actually been one of the more satisfying shifts in my gaming career in a long time, for the simple fact that most of them are just shorter.
Yeah, playable. They're playable.
Yeah.
And it's satisfying in that when you sit down, you're going to play it, and then 3 hours later you'll have completed something. And for, unfortunately, I'm going to use the accursed word for adults, we just don't necessarily have the same time as we used to sit down and play 7 hours in an RPG. Like Ni no Kuni is something that's still sitting in my PS3. I haven't finished it. I don't know if I will have the time because I just don't have that kind of that ability to dedicate to something like an RPG and then step away from it, come back, figure out where the I was, and then continue storyline. Right? Thankfully, Wind Waker will be easy enough because I played it, so intensely as a kid. I was like 15. But as a kid, that I think how when did it come out?
2003.
Right. So I was older than 15. Anyway, but it's one of those things that I think it was a little earlier than that. I might have been 18. You might be right. And so I honestly can.
Sorry, 2002 in Japan, 2003 in North America.
And I can step away from it and come back to it and be like, oh, where was I? I think I remember this done, right? So that's really the only one that I have intentions of finishing. The rest of them I know they're just going to collect dust.
Honestly, Wind Waker is something I found that you could actually put down for a week and come back and not have any trouble picking it back up.
Mm-hmm. I love that about Zelda games. I think it also follows a formula that we're familiar with, though, right?
Insofar as it follows.
I'm on my way to a dungeon if I'm not in one now.
Yeah. And just talk to the boat if you're not sure.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So, I don't know. What have you been playing?
Well, it's funny that we both got back into point and clicks because I had this sudden craving last week to just play point and clicks. And I think it was a combination of like being exhausted and not having the brain power to dedicate to figuring out these boss fights in like Ni no Kuni and other places that I'm stuck in, and or grinding because that's what I would end up doing, and I just didn't feel like doing it, which is weird because I really enjoy grinding. I really like it.
Really?
Than I meant it. But it's like a scenario where I love the art in a lot of point and clicks. Like if I'm down, picking up my iPad and playing Machinarium is really rewarding. Or Sword and Sorcery, or they're just really rewarding games. They don't take very long to beat, and they're calming. So,
low intensity.
Yeah, low intensity, but at the same time provoking. They provoke emotion, and they call upon something nostalgic within me. And I know nostalgia is like the buzzword of our generation, like 80s nostalgia, but they do. They provoke something beautiful, and I love that. And so I picked up an old game from like, I don't even know, iOS 7 or something stupid, called The Fool's Errand. It was made in, no, it wasn't even, it was like from Mac, it was like 1980 something. And I found a way to emulate it because it was a nightmare to emulate on my Mac. And I've been playing through that. It's a puzzle game. It's not really point and click so much as it's a puzzle game, but it's based on like every card in the tarot and the Fool's Errand, like the classic storyline and that kind of thing. And it's really interesting. and I found out that he did a sequel like 2 years ago. And he'd been working on it for a really long time, but it's only being sold through his site, and it's like $30 or $40 or maybe even more. And I was like, I can't right now justify the purchase, which is sad because I would love to be able to give him my money like off the bat, especially directly to him. That's really
Yeah.
cool. The idea that he's selling on his site. If it were just on Steam, it would be a lot easier, I think, for me to, because it would probably be able to be a little cheaper. And I'm going against everything I believe in the indie industry saying that, and I sound like such an asshole. And it's a conflict that I have, and so I'm debating it still. That'll be a big purchase if I make it, and we'll see. But other than that, I was playing, yeah, Wind Waker,
It's
Rayman Legends. I marathoned most of it. Well, I say most of it because we got through 5 of 7 worlds. I think it's 7. I'm pretty sure it's 5 of 7 worlds. Last weekend when I was in Vancouver, my friends Tom and Dave and I marathon, like just sat and played it for 5 hours straight because it was just that fun. It was that rewarding. They had remotes and I was on the gamepad, and we got to the second last world and realized that we only had like, the thing where you're collecting these little guys. It's of 700 and we only had like 280. I mean, it was a moment of like, there's a lot in this game. This game is much bigger than just the worlds that we're looking at. And that is simultaneously exciting and overwhelming. And I have a feeling it's going to be another one of those games that you have all intentions of finishing and completing, not just finishing story, but completing. But it's almost too much. And then you put it away and hopefully bring it out as a party game another time, and you're able to sort of involve 5 people at once and play. So, but I'm just so impressed with that game and how it incorporates all the music and how it encourages you to replay levels without. I mean, even if you die and go to restart a level, you don't get frustrated so much as you are excited to play it again and make incremental progress and learn. So that's really cool. I like that it has that aspect of reward, even when you lose. There's just something about it that's really beautiful. So, Raymond for sure. What else did I play? Didn't I tell you what I was playing?
Arguably.
Well, just Poison Clicks.
Yes.
I played Botanicula again.
Yeah, I believe
I
you're good.
have something like 30 hours logged in that game on Steam. It's a 3-hour game.
Well, congratulations, you've played it more than once.
Well, and it's so charming. Have you ever played it?
I don't believe I have. I don't.
You should use my Steam account and get on and play because it's super charming and lovely, and I feel like
I should own that. I own everything else on Steam.
You definitely should. It's really, really good, and it's something that I would like to make. It's like along the lines of a project that I would like to do in the sense that it's I don't know what's the formula for charm. How do you put that in a bottle and then pour it on your own game? Because I think it's different. The difference between cute and charming is something subtle that a few people. I think it's like an industry secret, personally, that a few people have access to and don't want the whole world to know about because it's amazing. It's an incredible subtlety that got it.
Cute is almost it's basically shallow is not the right word, but cute is inherently simpler and it's a more open and shit. This is why I write. Basically, the difference between cute and what the hell was the other one? Charm. Charm is something I find to be usually. It's a feeling that becomes fuck.
I think personally, I think that charm is, and I think you're right in saying that it's shallow. And that's not to say that cute isn't great. Cute is very topical, and charm has some level of depth that strikes you in a different way than just cute. But I don't know how to access that. Like I get that character development and relatability and the like access to emotion, like nostalgia,
Yeah.
creates charm. But I don't know how to do those things.
I don't believe that's the kind of thing you can inherently activate at will.
I don't know. Isn't it? Or is it just fluke? Like, is it fluke that these games?
I don't. I have to imagine it lies somewhere in between. I mean, there's intent, certainly, but I mean, how easily could one go about intentionally creating, you know, beauty and art and, you know, fantastical voyages rather than wanting to make something good? I mean,
Yeah.
that doesn't actually make sense now that
No,
I
it
think
does.
about it.
I think the point of charm is it's intangible, and
Yeah, that's a good word for it.
you can't define it. And the whole point is that once if you just pour yourself truly into something instead of just aiming for topical cute and like calling upon memes or like calling upon the things that we as species considers cute. You know, what I mean, cats and
Yeah.
big eyes and adorable sounds. Those
Well,
things.
some more than others.
If you put yourself into it, or if you at least have some passion about it, then maybe charm comes with that. Maybe it's a side effect. Maybe it's a product of,
Yeah.
a byproduct as opposed to the substance of it.
It's I don't know. I mean, Kentucky Route Zero is something I found basically as I put it in that thing I'm halfway done writing. It was more enchanting than anything else. It was it was something I considered to be a lot. It was past the the cute or the striking phase into the this is something I have not seen done before. This is the visual style coupled with the narrative, coupled with everything else about it, created something that was beyond mortal ken. Sure, let's put it that way. And I have to imagine that you can't begin a project knowing that what you're going to end up with is something that has not, to my knowledge, been done before.
Yeah,
And-
probably. It probably evolves.
Yeah, you start with a wanted goal, but where you end up is always unknown. And I think that is probably one of the signs of a good artist, game designer, creator, maker, whatever you want to call it. But the ability to see and step back from whatever it is you're doing and begin to accept that maybe it's not going to be what you think it is, but at the same time, maybe it's going to go somewhere that's kind of special, kind of awesome.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, to let go.
well, to a certain degree, yeah, to accept that you're not fully in control.
I love. Sorry, this is like totally reminding me of what my friend showed me the other night, which is the terrible, terrible entries in NaNoWriMo. Have you ever participated in NaNoWriMo?
I don't do a lot of stuff.
So NaNoWriMo is National Novel Writing Month, November.
Oh, sure.
And I believe it's November. I'm pretty sure it's November. It might be October.
The alliteration would fit.
It's happening soon. And it is chock full of gold in that the forums for it are full of posts that make fantastic dramatic readings, by the way, of people saying things like, well, I designed my character to be a strong female lead, but she decided that she was going to be X and do X and like get, into this situation. And they speak about their writing as though it's this like, and their characters as though they're real people, because what we're talking about, this, let go thing, is taken super, well, literally, and translated into excuses for poor writing.
Yeah.
It's really funny. It's really, really funny. Like if anybody listening hasn't checked it out, just go to the NaNoWriMo. I think someone's got to have like a Twitter or a Tumblr dedicated to these terrible things.
Just curation, yeah.
Yeah, it's really funny. It's really, really amazing. There's probably a Reddit even, but
There's a Reddit for everything.
everything, yeah. And I'm really enjoying reading through some of those every now and then, and my friends link me, and reminding myself that there is a difference between like creation or art or writing or the process and losing yourself and sort of being an 8-year-old child about it. And anytime I get down on myself for not making things, it's a good thing to read to like help myself remember that I'm not terrible. Is that awful? I'm using like the no, it's not bad. That's not bad. The bad parts of the internet always make us feel better.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure if better is technically the right word. Certainly it makes me feel more accomplished and better about myself, if not better about humanity in general.
Yes. Yeah, big picture, no, small picture, yes. So.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. Apparently this is going to be a podcast about creation and the faults thereof, but I'm not a writer. I mean, I write, but I'm not a writer.
Yeah,
and it's easy to become enchanted or entranced with the act of creation, or the act of creating something that before now had not existed. Mm-hmm. It's also incredibly stressful, considering it's not the easiest thing in the world to do. And cheers.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I don't know where to draw lines half the time. I don't know where, it seems to be a process, no matter what it is, where until you have done it enough to know better, you don't know better.
Yeah, that's fine. That's learning. That's growth, right? I mean, that's like the whole story of life, and that's great. I guess. So I had this really interesting conversation with my friend Matt and Colin. I don't know if Colin was in for it. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Matt and I discussed. And Seth. Anyway, we were discussing the difference between the conversation of like originality and authenticity, especially in game making. So the idea that you will probably never be original, but if you're true to yourself and true to your idea, you can be authentic. Like creating something, and whether it's a game or writing or art, usually if you show it to someone, and music especially, this happens in music, if you play something for someone that you have created, the way that they can relate to it is going to be by saying, oh, it sounds like X.
Yeah, it's always comparative. It's always relative.
Exactly. I try not to do that when I'm giving feedback because I know what it's like to have someone say, oh, that reminds me of this thing. It's dismissive. It can be, at least. It can be very... it can negate your pride in what you have. Yeah. It's never meant that way, but that's the only way we relate to things. And to remember that most of what you create is not necessarily original. Like even Kentucky Route Zero has pulled from all of their ideas, has pulled from other things, and then put it together in something that we haven't seen before. Yeah. Not that it doesn't exist, but we haven't seen it before. But the fact that it carries such authenticity in that it is true to itself, and it was set out to make something, and it created it, and it presents it in such a way that is appealing, and not just appealing, but I think it's relatable. Like, I mean, from what little I've seen, each part of Kentucky Route Zero becomes relatable. You can say, oh, this art style speaks to me because this reason, and this narrative speaks to me because this reason. And I think that's the conversation to have in authenticity rather than originality, and to not worry about the fact that you're only going to get better, which means that you were worse before, right? That's hard. That's really tough to look back and be like, oh my God, the things I wrote when I was 18 are just the worst things in the world.
The things I wrote last week.
Yeah, and that's key in growing in creativity. And to bring it back to the whole cute versus charm thing, I think charm has a lot to do with authenticity. And it's kind of a dangerous word, especially right now. Because I'm not talking about authentic as in a true indie. I'm not trying to say you're not indie if you make this type of game, or if you have this team or this money, and that ends up being a conversation accidentally a lot of the time. It gets sort of derailed into this discussion of whether you're an authentic indie, or whether
Well,
what you're
there's
doing
it's
is
conflating the argument between whether or not what you're creating falls into a certain niche or genre or whatever, and whether or not what you're creating is something that is able to stand on its own merits without being, I don't know, compared or
Well, being
being.
compared isn't a bad thing, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's just it. Is that we need to let go of that idea. Like, I think as a community, and not just of developers, but of players, we need to let go of the idea that saying X is a clone of Y isn't necessarily a bad thing, right? Like, case in point, Towerfall, and Matt's the first person to ever say it, is like a clone of Smash Brothers. And you're like, oh, right. But it carries charm and stands on its own, and that's incredible. That's really cool.
I don't know if I call it a clone. It's certainly in the same genre, but I
Oh,
don't
it's a
know.
clone.
Okay.
Like it's not a bad thing. This is
No.
it's not necessarily a bad thing to make something based on what you love. That
No.
doesn't have to be inherently cheap. It doesn't have to be. It can be taken as such if the reasons you're doing it are to do that, and there's no deeper, like there's nothing about it that speaks to you, or nothing about it that you wish to communicate in a new manner. But the idea that you loved something and now you want, I mean, imitation through the highest form of flattery, right? That you love something and that now you would like to create it in your own words or in your own code or your own art is not necessarily bad. And I'm concerned that we, as like a gaming community, are, and I use this word all the time, but like cannibalizing ourselves by shaming that, by putting it down, and by dismissing it, the idea.
I can see where you're coming from there. Yeah, in a lot of ways, it's hard to want to overtly and openly state that the reason I have made X is because of the impact of Y, where the reason I felt this was important was not based on a deep, sudden eureka insight, rather than at some point earlier I had had a really good moving experience in an entirely in somebody else's game entirely, that something I had nothing to do with, and at the same time I wanted to try to recreate that. And yeah, it's hard to want to I don't know, debase yourself isn't really the right word, but to want to sorry, a little squawk is it's a great way to make me derail my thoughts. Sorry. Where the hell was I?
It's difficult to not beat yourself up for it, essentially.
Yeah, well,
I'm layman's
and
terms.
admit it, yeah.
Radio versus, this is always interesting to see the two of us converse, because radio versus print, you're able to use
Time?
well, you're just good at saying, or you do say, and you are good at it as well, at saying like things on paper come out in this really eloquent way.
Yeah, I don't know
And
about
I'm awful
eloquent.
at writing now because I've trained myself into radio script where the smallest words in the shortest amount of time. And I will also default to like horrible layman's terms that sound really stupid, where I'm just like, yeah, X.
Yeah, well, it's... I don't know. Arguably, that's a greater skill to have than the ability to barf words onto a page for hours on end.
Those are so important. But anyway, I find it really interesting to witness because I'm on the outside of the industry, especially the indie industry, where I just get to watch these incredible people make all these games, and I get to speak to them about it and listen to them. And never, I don't really have the skill set or the time right now to be part of it in a real way. But observing is fascinating, and observing the like terrifying new era that we're going into, where either creativity is going to be, increased tenfold and amplified in medium, amplified in exposure, right? With things like PlayStation and even the Wii U and everybody like publishing indie games, facilitating them being published. that has a double side to it. It has another side to it, and it's the threat of of like ruining authenticity. The idea that maybe if we have this much exposure, that too many people will try to ride that train without the intention of being true to themselves or true to a genre, which is just a bunch of kids making games. Like all of us sat in our rooms, at a young age trying to make a game, and now we can, sell it, and it's threatening suddenly to think that that is no longer ours, that it's something that we're giving out and letting everybody do.
This harkens back to. Oh, sorry.
No, I'm just fascinated. I'm just fascinated to watch. Like I'm almost more comfortable watching it than I ever would be partaking in it. So.
I don't know. This harkens back to the community versus the community talk we had the last time you were on, and yeah, at no point before now has the medium of games as a way to express yourself been more open. Never before has the ease and access of both making and presenting them to an audience been higher. And in a lot of ways, it's going to dilute's not the right word, but it's going to create such an expanse of quality and quantity and I don't know. Basically, it's going to be an interesting 2 years, 5 years.
Yeah, I think 2 years. I think so as well. Yeah. I think the next 2 years are going to be huge.
And it's incredibly arrogant to consider myself a journalist because I'm not. But that specifically is going to be also going to be an interesting evolution of the.
I could do a whole friggin' podcast on how I feel about games journalists and not the journalists, because I don't want to single out people, but just journalism in general. Having gone to journalism school and aspired to be one since I was like 12, and watching the community right now do what it's doing, I have very unpopular opinions on what's going on. So
yeah,
that's for a different time. That's not this time.
Well, it's something to keep in mind. But what I was basically trying to say is that at the same time that the entire methodology of game making is in the process of being dumbed down is not the right word also, but basically opened to the community, whatever community it might be, the measure of coverage and
someone's knocking. Sorry, it's not actually someone knocking on the door. Someone's just hammering in the hallway, and it's weird. I don't know if you can hear that. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, I don't know. Your mic's
I would be able to. I'm sorry.
Yeah. At the same time that the game industry is changing, so is the means and degree at which it is covered. So everything about this is in flux right now.
Yeah, we'll see. I also am like incredibly arrogant in even speaking towards anything in the industry because I'm not anything. Like I'm not a writer.
As opposed to me or anybody else? I mean,
no, I mean like I sometimes speak as though I'm part of like the dev industry, and I'm not. Like the whole point of like, my Twitter bio just says like I don't make games. I just think about it a lot, and I just like I'm not a creator. I'm not an artist in any way whatsoever. And but I observe it. I'm privy to like watching the process, and I think that's the journalist in me actually, is like I love observing and then speaking about it, which is like, I guess maybe somebody has to do it. I don't know, but
I'm happy for it to be you. Yeah, it's, I don't know, you're in a position I've not seen anybody else put themselves in, where you know enough about every aspect might be a bit much, but
like each individual aspect.
Yeah. That you can speak with some degree of authority on all of it, even if you don't necessarily partake actively in any of them.
I don't think I can speak with authority. I can speak with opinion.
Well, authoritative opinion. Let's put it that way. Cut the middle.
Yeah, I think it would be really interesting to we're like, this podcast has gone from like an actual discussion of real things to just my life.
Well,
But I
only in
think
the
that
past
it'll be
5
really
minutes.
interesting to see where in the next 2 years also stuff like what I'm going to be doing, where it's like PR for indies and marketing for not marketing really because you don't need to market. It's just it really is just more like PR. It's more like
Do you think you don't
relating
need a
with
market?
relating to the audience.
Do you honestly think you don't need to market indie games?
No, I don't think that they need marketing in the same way that AAA games feel like they need to market. I think
Okay.
that AAA games market in unnecessary ways and in ways that are effective to the people who play AAA games. But I don't think that that's necessary in the Indian industry. I think that it's very different, and it's a totally different beast entirely. In that, and this could be a whole different discussion. In that
You
the
say
niche
that every time.
yeah, the niche that you fill in marketing an indie game, the position that you put yourself in is much more reliant on
Relations, public and
yeah
otherwise.
on public relations on directly with the consumer rather than through something like TV
Yeah.
or a site or something like that.
It's targeted rather than
It's
indiscriminate.
and it's all targeted, but this is like on a personal level targeted, and that's why it's so overwhelming to so many indies. I think it's so overwhelming for them to take that on. You make a game, you're the sole creator of that game, and then you've got to go into the public and answer every single question, and be the person they want you to be. Not necessarily the person you are, who might be like a total introvert who's never, you know, never prepared to speak, to 100 people at
Never
once.
wanted to.
I never wanted to. And so you have to fill that. You are everyone. The pressure on these people is unbelievable. It's insane that we would ever expect it from them. And yet we do because we're a bunch of gamers who think that we're entitled as a person who paid for this product to have like this personal connection with the
Well,
creator.
you don't even
And
need to give them money to feel that entitlement. You need
no, you don't
to
even need to give them money. Exactly. You
be.
need to play the game. You need to pirate the game, play it, and then be like, well, I played your game and like told friends about it. And like not even that. It's this bizarre it's the difference between relating to a game and then mapping that directly onto the devs, like
Yeah.
hoping and praying that relation to the game can just translate to a personal connection in some way,
And justifies that.
and and it's this weird phenomenon that's going on, and I'm really looking forward to the next few years of working with indies and and hopefully filling like having a role in that gap
Yeah.
in that bizarre difference between I made a game for you, but I didn't make the game for you. Let's buffer this relationship, and see where it goes. So and on the other end too, like I would if it I would love to see more people doing not just between but being a buffer between like gamers and devs, but also between like the tough industry, like something like Steam and devs, or something like the talking to Sony, talking to Xbox, talking to these people about how to get out there as a dev, right? So it's almost like a progression. Like you got to talk to them, and then suddenly you're overwhelmed by fans, and you don't know what to do with yourself. So there's two roles that I don't see filled yet that I find are fascinating and would love to see more people fill. So.
There is a weird. Weird's not the right word. I say that a lot, but basically, the individuality of the stereotypical indie game maker and the necessity for them to basically play every role that a 300 strong team would be in something like your BioShocks or your Call of Duties or whatever you want to pick. The need to make and then specifically market that game is something I don't think it's only recently become obvious to the community, to the degree to which everybody or anybody who makes a game by themselves needs to, if they want it to be successful, have 6 dozen different hats on it at any one
So
time.
scary.
Yeah.
So intimidating. So yeah, we need more people to fill those roles, and not people. And this is the key. And I know I'm like this is the place. This is always the place in the conversation where I accidentally open up the floodgates to change it from a conversation about like authenticity and being true to yourself to like being a real indie dev. You need someone with the same values as you. it's so difficult to find someone in PR and marketing who would be willing to and and not just willing to, but like have passion for the values which you hold dear. So not having a publisher, doing it yourself, maintaining, whatever level of comfort you have with your game, being able to keep that, the ownership and the understanding of creative control, and also marketing it on a level that is good for you and good for the game. Forget you, good for the game, right?
Well, arguably they are close to
Well,
the same
we have a
thing.
relationship clearly, but
Yeah.
it's not about every indie dev I've ever spoken to about this speaks about it in terms of their game. I've never heard one of them say like, "Oh, well, I want to make the money, so this is the best thing to do." They've all said like, "This is the best for my game. This is how my game will thrive," because that's what it's about. It's about your project, and that's cool. That's really cool. And it's like this
Speaking of
fairy tale land.
authenticity,
It's this fairy tale land of pipe dream that I think might actually be able to stay alive. Like I don't think it has to be, doesn't have to be the like evil corporate machine. It doesn't have to evolve into that. But it really it's going to take like a bunch of people who are willing to make sacrifices, certain sacrifices. So that's
well,
vague. I'm trying to stay vague because I'm trying not to like make the conversation about money. Really, is what this comes down to.
if most things do, if you go far enough out. Well, what are your feelings on Steam then, who have basically a borderline monopoly on the PC gaming market?
Yeah.
I would state that PC gaming is probably where indie games have the most potential. It
Right
is
now, I mean, we'll see with console with the new generation. We'll see what happens.
Well, the consoles are inherently a lot more of a closed system. I mean, Sony's making huge, incredibly, great strides towards being more inclusive and more open to the idea of having indies on their system. But it's still something that you inherently need to go through them in order to get your game on it. And in many ways, Steam's worse than that, because if you're on there's a story every week about how a game needs to be greenlit or tried to go without Steam and has done poorly as a result.
Yeah, I think also in the same line, but on the other side of the spectrum of that is the fact that I believe things like Steam having a monopoly on it, on like the PC corner, have also created a polar reaction of going and kickstarting your game,
Really?
which I don't think is a good thing necessarily.
Well, what do you see as the connection between the two?
I think that a lot of people who, like, I've spoken to some people who find that Steam is intimidating to get on because it's kind of like choosing the Pope, is what I've heard. It's kind of like they go into a room, they like decide whether your game can go on Steam, they come out, they say yes or no, and then you don't know. You don't really know what happened. There was no criteria. There's no list of things of what to do to get on
It's
Steam.
incredibly non-transparent.
Yeah, it's the least transparent process. And so I find that a lot of people that I've spoken to, unnamed, find that really intimidating. So, easier to not crowdsource, but like to
Crowdfund
your game, because you can put it out there, you can market it yourself as a funding thing, and then you don't have to necessarily worry about that part, right? You've got the money.
Yeah.
You can now go and make the game, and you don't have to rely on Steam to support you for that time that you went without any money to make the game. Because a lot of people make the game, go broke, and then hope that it'll make it onto Steam or hope that it'll sell.
Yeah.
What's scary about that is, and leading back to the whole entitlement thing of gamers, you have now given them a huge amount of right to claim entitlement to the end product of your game.
Yeah.
And that's really scary. And I would like to think that it would become more and more, that we would evolve as gamers and that we would sort of like begin to, my dash is staring at me. Is it my boobs or staring at my boobs? Oh, eating pie. Please eat more pumpkin pie. It is Thanksgiving. No, it is terrifying to think that I would hand a bunch of gamers uh, a ticket, like a veto ticket, almost, to say like, well, I paid money. All of the like we talked about pressure before, where they have to put on a bunch of hats. Now they have to wear the hat of expectation
Yeah.
and living up to said expectation. And kudos to anybody who goes out and does it. And if you're comfortable with going out and doing it and then saying like, no, guys, this is what my game is going to be in a year, or it got postponed, or these things came up and I couldn't do it. That's incredible, and I love that. But most people don't. I mean, I know that I wouldn't have the capacity to do that. I would constantly be worrying about what my funders, the people who have given me the money and invested in me, are thinking. And I think if something like Steam were more transparent, or if you had a way to know that you had a better chance of getting this kind of publicity afterwards, or if you were able to publish on them, might help a lot of people who are looking to make amazing games make them, and then have a for sure yes at the end of it. Like, it's so scary jumping into making a game. You work 12 hours a day for as long as it is to make that game, and that's your whole life.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't see that part of it. They just are like, oh, well, you implemented this and it took you 5 minutes. It would take me 5 minutes to code X, and you're like, you don't even know you're like, stop talking, stop it.
C plus what?
Yeah, well, and it's not even about the code. It's about the team. It's about the fact that if you are the entire team, you're doing all the art, you're doing all the animation, you're doing, implementing everything, and it's really, really scary, and that can be meeting deadlines can be terrifying.
Yeah.
When you're a one-man show. And yeah, I don't know how I feel about Steam yet. We're gonna see. I think things are gonna change in the next little while, so we'll see.
They've apparently tried to make the green lighting process more, I'm not sure if transparent, but certainly more available and more easily done. But actually,
is its own machine in that, like, if I submit, and I don't know if this is still true, but it was true as of like a month ago. If I submit something, oh God, I feel so uncomfortable actually putting all this on a podcast, like talking about it as though I know what I'm talking about. I don't. Disclaimer,
hey,
I don't know
I'm making shit up as we go.
I do not know what I'm talking about. So
me neither. Don't worry, nobody will listen to this either.
As far as I know, Greenlight, if I submit a game to Greenlight in its current state, it can't change. That is the game I need to publish. It cannot evolve. I cannot change it to be something more. I can add on like stuff later after it's published, maybe as an update, but the game is exactly what I have made it on Greenlight. So, and I get that from Steam's point of view, they need to do that, because you can't be like, oh, sure, we'll put this up, and when it gets greenlit, it'll get published, or it'll be sold in our store rather. And then it changes entirely, and suddenly you have no quality control over what, especially in something as not as like opaque, if you will, as the Steam process. If they're that protective of their process and what they okay on Steam, how would they possibly have Greenlight without saying like, no, you're, and once it's greenlit, it can go on the store, but you can't change it.
Sorry. Whatever you said before on the store and you can't change it became you freeze-framed as a hilarious GIF.
A hilarious GIF. Okay, I'm excited about this hilarious GIF.
So argue it will make the splash page for this much easier, but I also have no idea what you just said, and nobody else will either. I was just saying that you're married to it. Like, if they are so opaque in their process, then like they would need to make it so that you're married to what you put on Greenlight, and then at the end, that's the game you've got. There's nothing else you can do about it. I understand that position. I also understand why it differs from the early access in that regard.
It's 2:30 and I need to go soon, just to let you know.
Sure, we are at 55 minutes, and if you'd like to end it here, we certainly could.
Well, I think this is an interesting topic that we should, I don't know, rewatch ourselves maybe, and then write something on it. That'd be nice. Although neither of us can really speak with any authority on it, so maybe not. But I think
I'd point out we can't speak on
originality is something we could totally write on, and creative, like charm versus cute.
I don't know. My writing is terrible and poor, and usually the result of
I've ever read. 100%. I have never seen worse than you in all my years.
Well, I'm glad somebody thinks so. All right, yeah. No, my Christ, I could do a whole episode on how I don't write particularly well, and often it's a result of me running out of time that anything gets published at all. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that's probably not a happy topic to end this on, so shit. Do we have time for one question from Twitter?
Yeah. One of my questions. Hold on, let's see.
I don't know. I don't know.
I accidentally started. Don't install it. Stop what you're doing. No, not now. I accidentally clicked on Minecraft.
Let's end this on a slightly happier note than I'm a dad writer and Steam might be the, Microsoft of PC gaming.
Oh, I know. I would never say that.
Me neither.
We're really awkward publishing this entire podcast.
Whatever else Steam may be, it is something I am deeply, deeply invested in. I mean,
me too. So, yeah.
I've got 400 plus games on that bloody thing, and yeah. I am, for whatever evil they might do, I think they have the PC gaming industry as I believe they will be a benevolent dictator. Let's put it that way.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Okay, so happy note. The question I asked earlier that I liked the most out of anybody was the assuming we throw causality out the window, what's your favorite type of pastry?
I have an answer, but I'd like to hear yours first.
Pastry is tough for me. So I grew up in a family of Germans who had both a farm, an organic beef farm, and a bakery. So I worked in the bakery from about 9 years old on. Like, I just started working in it, and I was exposed to many delicious pastries. Don't get me wrong, like many delicious pastries. My grandparents are fantastic at what they do. And as such, when you are around it every day of your life, you either, binge and overdo it and then never eat them again, or you somehow maintain a balance where you anyway, the point is I didn't do the latter, I did the former. And the issue here is that I haven't had a pastry in like 10 years, probably.
Oh dear.
Because when we say overdid, I mean like I really overdid it. Like I'm talking like, wow, like raspberry strudel thingies, raspberry danishes. They were danishes. They weren't really danishes. They were delicious, is what they were. It was just a mound of flaky pastry with some raspberry jam in the middle of it. And it was just this like pyramid of, and then you'd bite into it when it was fresh out of the oven, and it was like flaked everywhere, and you had butter in your mouth and raspberry jam, and you were just like, I'm in heaven. This is it. This is heaven. And then you overdid it one day and realized you were actually in hell. Like, you've overdone it. Oh my God, I can never have another one again. This wasn't heaven. This was just a trick by Satan, and now I'm in hell. So that's how I feel about pastry.
So causality notwithstanding, what you feel is a deep
delicious raspberry pastries.
Regret and loathing.
Regret and loathing.
Fair enough. If we go to Las Vegas, we have probably copyright infringement, actually, but
yeah.
I don't know. Pastry is something I don't particularly partake in. Were it fortune cookies or almond cookies, I have, family history I could share, but I'm stealing a joke from the end of a QI episode where I don't remember who said it, but basically it was I believe the setup was you can order breakfast at any time, so somebody ordered Eggs Benedict during the Renaissance. And that's how I feel about pastry. I don't know. That's probably
No, I like it. It's good. It's good.
It's a thing. But if you're busy, then we shall end this here.
No, I was honestly just tying my boot because it was untied. But yes, we can.
Sorry, I'm not particularly familiar with them. Do they require such things?
My boots? No, not my.
Oh, boots. Sorry, Tinny Mike.
Oh, boobs.
Yeah.
You're funny.
No, actually, what I am is apparently. Oh dear.
It's good. And now we end this podcast on Alex being incredibly awkward.
Yeah, no, that's not hard.
And thanks for listening.
Yeah. Of course, you can find us at adp.co. You can find myself at AEH or at on Twitter because
That was terrible because now people are gonna try and search the letter A and then EH. What Alex is trying to say is that he's at Aor, A spelt, EH the Canadian way.
yes, thank you, Maya. Always looking out for me. And where can people find you?
At Lego Butts. Just the bricks you build and the butts you sit on. Plural. Because more than one is best. You can't have just one butt. You gotta have all the butts.
And, I don't know, check out Mega Cynics, I guess.
Oh, yeah. That's where I am right now. That was actually, Mega Cynics is awesome. She just put up an awesome, adorable comic today. And I believe it's just megacynics.com. I always do that. I'm always like, it's this.com, and then I find out it's not .com at all, and I'm a terrible person, and I've linked everybody to the wrong thing, so let me just check really quickly. No, it really is megacynics.com. Really
excellent.
Good. So.
Well, and with that, thank you for joining us. Thank you, Maya, for taking time out of your busy day for, this hour-long rant about why everything is terrible.
That's usually what we do.
Probably should stop that one of these days, but that's okay.
Good.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Okay.
Cheers, folks.